Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 211. So I had a little bit of a late start here on the Daily Drop tonight, so I'm going to forego the monologue, and we're just going to jump right into the article tonight. So the article is from the Daily Mail, and the headline is, Woman admits she was a schoolgirl pimp who procured 24 friends as young as 14 for pedophile billionaire Jeffrey Epstein and was paid $200 for each victim. Well, it's nice to see that they called him a pedophile in the headline at least, right? You know, a snake is a snake, a goat is a goat, and Jeffrey Epstein's a pedophile. This article was authored by Caroline Graham. A woman has admitted procuring 24 schoolgirl friends, some as young as 14, for pedophile billionaire Jeffrey Epstein and being paid $200 for each of the victims. Now, the person we're talking about in this article is Hayley Robson, and we have to remember that she was only 16 when she was first recruited as well, right? So, as much as I'd like to go scorched earth on her, I think we have to keep that in mind and understand the psychology behind all of this. Again, I'm certainly not a psychologist, and I'm not qualified to even begin to try and look at it from that perspective clinically. But there is zero doubt that she was groomed and that Jeffrey Epstein used his narcissistic charm to get her to do what he wanted her to do. In a harrowing interview for a new Netflix documentary series, Jeffrey Epstein, Filthy Rich, which premieres on Wednesday, tearful Hayley Robson is the first of Epstein's so-called recruiters to admit introducing children into his twisted sexual pyramid scheme for money. Now, for those of us who have been following the case for quite some time, this does not come as a shock to us. We know who Hayley Robson is. We know what her role has been, and we've had time to digest it, right? But people who are going to watch this documentary for the first time on Wednesday, and I know several of them, it's going to come as a shock to them to see some of these things that were going on in the Jeffrey Epstein case, especially the first time around. And it's going to be a shock for them to see that people actually knew that this was occurring and it was still able to happen. Now, hopefully what this documentary does is it spurs people to be more interested in the case and to search out the deeper facts. And that is what I hope, the only thing that I'm hoping for this documentary. I go into these kind of things and I'm very skeptical until I watch them, because a lot of times they turn into hit pieces or they turn into documentaries that veer off into La La Land, etc., etc. So obviously I have not seen this documentary yet. I don't know if that's what's going to occur here, but I'm very interested to see how they present things for the unsullied. And the unsullied, if you're not aware, for me, that's what I call people who are not locked into this case. I call them the unsullied because they don't know all of the nuances and all of the deep rabbit hole type situations we've been dealing with in this case. So I'm sure a lot of them, the unsullied, are going to watch this Netflix documentary and their interest is going to be sparked, and they're going to search out other content and they're going to search out more information, and hopefully they find themselves here at the Jeffrey Epstein podcast, the Jeffrey Epstein Show. That way that they can go a little bit deeper than just the surface, right? But when people hear from Hayley Robson for this first time around and they see her on screen and they realize that she was, bringing girls 14 years old to Jeffrey Epstein, what it's going to do is bug their eyes right out of their head, because a lot of people don't even understand that this is going on. And when I say a lot of people, folks, that was even me until I started researching this case. I had no idea how big of a problem all of this was. So that's my hope for the Netflix documentary. My hope is that it spurs interest, and due to that interest, there is even more public outcry for tangible action to be taken. Miss Robson, who was 16 when she began working for Epstein, says she was racked with guilt for years until she realized that she was also a victim. Look, this is the thing with her, right? It's just like with Nadia Marcinkova. It's one of those slippery slopes. You want her to face justice for what she did, but if she was a child herself and she was being abused, well, I am certainly not qualified to go down that road and go into all of the nuances of what would make her completely culpable in a situation like that. So all I have to work on is my opinion and what my gut tells me. And what my gut tells me with somebody like Hayley Robson is that when she was committing these crimes of procuring these young girls, she was only 16 herself. So how do you punish somebody like that? What is the proper punishment for somebody like that? Again, I don't feel like I'm qualified to even begin to try and find a proper resolution for a situation like that. I don't have the answers there, folks. I'm sorry. I mean, my opinion is that anybody who was involved to any degree has to face some sort of justice unless they come forward and they tell everything that they know about the case. Then, if you're a cooperating witness, then that's the only way I think you should get any leniency. But when it comes to people like Hayley Robson, who was 16 when this started and it occurred, and Marcinkova, I'm on the fence there, folks. I've went into detail about Marcinkova previously on the podcast, how I feel about that and how I feel she still needs to be punished, but half of the punishment that Kellen Vickers and Groff, etc. get. Because remember, Marcinkova, if the stories are to be believed, was sold to Jeffrey Epstein. So she was just a little kid when she came over here, and Stockholm Syndrome's a real thing. And when you're put in a situation with a narcissist like Jeffrey Epstein and you're being gaslit on a regular basis, well, upside is going to be down and down is going to be up. It's going to be, your life is going to be chaotic. So I can't hold Marcinkova to the same level of responsibility that I hold Kellen Vickers to. Although, if Marcinkova does not cooperate, then my opinion might change. Then my opinion might be that she deserves the full weight of whatever the sentence is, because she's had a chance here to redeem herself. She's had a chance to come forward and offer some help to the prosecutors, and she has not done that. Whereas Hayley Robson here has been very open about her role within the organization. So I think that is a notch in her favor, right? You have to give her a check mark in her favor for coming forward and speaking on this, because we know that there are a lot of people that will not even do that. She was introduced to Epstein in 2003 by a friend at Royal Palm Beach High School in Florida who said she can make money giving an old guy massages. But when she went to Epstein's $25 million mansion in Palm Beach, he tried to molest her in one of the bedrooms. Miss Robson, 33, says, "He was naked on the table. I remember feeling really scared. He tried to touch me below the belt. I declined. I told him I didn't feel comfortable, and no, it's not going to happen." So we see here that Jeffrey Epstein attempts to molest Hayley Robson, and she's not about it, right? She's not down with that part of the scam, with that part of the scheme, and she tells Jeffrey Epstein that it's not going to happen. Do not, try that again. Don't touch me. But as you'll see, Jeffrey Epstein decided that even though she wouldn't be somebody that he per se was molesting, he could use her to bring other girls within his atmosphere. And he was such a predator that he recognized that right away. At that moment, he was like, okay, well, this isn't going to happen. So if you have any friends and you bring them to me, I will give you $200. Imagine that's the price Jeffrey Epstein put on these little girls' innocence, folks. $200 measly. Now, to you and me, $200, it's a joke almost, right? But when you're a poor kid and you're coming from an impoverished family, and you might be coming from a broken home, your parents aren't around, your mom has to work 2 jobs to support you and your brothers and sisters, etc., etc. Someone offers you $200 to give them a massage. That's like the lottery. That's like you hit the lottery, because $200 is life-changing to somebody who's broke. And that is the amount that this sick, disgusting, twisted bastard put on these young girls' innocence. 200 measly dollars, folks. I would recruit girls who were friends. I would casually bring it up, and we would drive together to his house. I would take them to his room, and then I'd walk out. Sometimes I would wait by the pool. And, reading this, it really sickens me, right? Robson, if she was an adult when this was happening and she wasn't a victim herself, I'd want her thrown into a volcano, a live volcano, as punishment. But I have to try and temper that anger, and I have to look at all of the facts, like always here on the Jeffrey Epstein Show, and look at everything in context, and not let my anger overrun my good sense. Because if we did that, then we'd be maniacs when it came to this case, right? We have to keep everything into perspective, and we have to understand that Robson, while what she did was abhorrent and gross and unforgivable, we have to understand that she was a minor who was abused herself, right? And the true anger and our ire should be directed at Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, the Core Four, the legacy media, and anybody within the federal government or intelligence agencies that protected these people. That's where our anger should be directed, and it should be the anger that is hotter than 1,000 burning suns. When the girls would leave, Jeffrey would come out and pay me. I probably recruited 24 girls. Those girls brought other girls too. They were all underage. She says the youngest was 14. In Florida, the legal age of consent is 18. So think about that for a minute. She recruited 24 girls, and then those girls brought other girls too. So it was definitely a Madoff kind of pyramid scheme he was running. We've talked about that several times here on the podcast. And it was almost a cult-like with Jeffrey Epstein. He would have all of these girls, right? Robson was responsible for 24 girls herself. Now, how many of those 24 girls, how many girls did they recruit each? Talk about exponential growth rates, right? These are the kind of numbers that would make Dr. Fauci blush. Miss Robson says she was destroyed by guilt every day for years until she realized she was also a victim. I was 16. He was the adult. He shouldn't have asked me to do those things. She's 100% right about that. 16 years old, I get it. You're a little bit older, you're learning some things in life, but you're certainly not capable of dealing with a narcissist like Jeffrey Epstein and avoiding the web that he weaves. We're asking a lot from this young girl. We're asking a whole lot from this young girl, folks, all right? And again, I'm not absolving her of her responsibility for what she did. I'm not in that business. I'm not a priest. I'm not here to absolve anybody of anything. But what I am here to do is to read in between the lines, like usual. And my anger is squarely focused on Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and the rest. Robson is somebody who probably, obviously I don't know her. I've never met her or talked to her or anything like that. But she's probably somebody who's dealing with her own issues because of this whole entire situation. And I would hope that she would reach out to the authorities, come forward, sit down with them, go under oath, and let them know everything that she knows. Even if she's talked to the authorities before, like in Palm Beach, I'm talking about sitting down with the federal prosecutors, going through it all again, and if she needs to be helped, if she needs to get some sort of trauma help or PTSD help, I believe that should be provided to her. She was a kid when she was abused, and, as human beings, I think that we have to do our best to be compassionate in situations like this, right? Again, it's a very slippery slope. The gripping 4-part Netflix series tells how Epstein, who killed himself in jail last summer after being arrested on child sex charges, set up a sophisticated web of recruiters using girls to lure their friends from at least 4 high schools near his home. Epstein preyed on girls from difficult backgrounds. And again, I've pointed this out several times, and it's been a dead end for me. I haven't been able to chase any leads down that have been concrete, that have been something that has been worthwhile even. And that angle is, if Jeffrey Epstein was doing this in New York and he was doing it in Palm Beach, chances are he was doing it in New Mexico as well. And New Mexico has a very big problem with indigenous girls going missing, and Albuquerque in general has a lot of really poor areas. So I think it would be a fertile hunting ground for Jeffrey Epstein and his associates, although I cannot find anything saying that occurred in in Albuquerque as well. But my gut tells me it did. Obviously, I have no evidence to prove that, but it's the same blueprint he's used elsewhere. What would make us think that he is not going to use the same blueprint within in the borders of New Mexico, especially how politically juiced he was there? Psychologist Catherine Stamoulis described Epstein's recruitment system as a sexual pyramid scheme, saying he was a brilliant narcissistic billionaire. I don't believe he was not brilliant. Sorry. He was narcissistic, no doubt about it, but he was not brilliant. Adolescents could not cope with that. No, the narcissism they could not cope with. And I wouldn't say brilliant, because he's not brilliant. He was devious and he was manipulative, but he was not brilliant. All right? Not in the least. The show's director, Lisa Bryant, who spent 20 months making Filthy Rich, used a secret computer server and kept all footage under lock and key for fear of retribution from the billionaire pedophile. The program claims he kept surveillance tapes from all his homes to blackmail the rich and powerful. Well, we've known that from the beginning, folks, right? We've known that, and we know that it's a fact. We know it's not speculation at this point. But again, what the documentary is going to do is it's going to show that to people who might not have known, people who might not have searched out the content previously. And again, the more outrage that we can get in this case, the better. Because without the outrage, there's going to be no movement. And we all know that people like Berman and the attorney generals and district attorneys, their public image is very important to them. So as long as we keep getting the outcry to get to these levels where we see it at right now from the public, who has had enough of seeing these young ladies get screwed over by not only Jeffrey Epstein, but by the government, well, the better chance we have for justice taking place in this case. Ms. Bryant said, "We started working on this before Epstein was arrested. He proved time and again that power and money helped him evade justice. We knew we couldn't be too careful." She's right about that. You know, Jeffrey Epstein's he was that kind of guy, and his associates are those kind of people. You do not know who you're dealing with until you're dealing with them. And for some people, that's a very scary situation, right? There are some people that will not talk about things like this because they're very scared of retribution. There are people that don't want to take the chance of having to deal with the blowback. And I get it. Not everybody's willing to be on the front line. Me personally, I don't care about blowback. I don't care about any of these people. There is not one single person that is ever associated with Jeffrey Epstein that pumps one bit of fear into my heart. Zero fear. I don't. These people, to me, are the biggest lame asses in the history of the world. These are the sort of people that need to be crushed under heel. The days of them making others fear them, those days are over, folks. Because the year 2020, that is the year the predator turns into the prey. Virginia Roberts, the woman who claims Epstein forced her to have sex with Prince Andrew 3 times, the first when she was just 17 in 2001, also speaks out in the documentary. Prince Andrew has denied that claim and claims that no wrongdoing has ever occurred. During his infamous car crash interview on BBC's Newsnight last November, he denied ever knowing Miss Roberts. Yeah, that picture was fake, all that stuff, just all made up. Virginia's story is just all made up, and we should believe this. We should believe the Joe Exotic of the royal family because he is a very honorable man. He told us that. And he wears the honorable kit when he wants us to think he's honorable. Frickin' clown. She was interviewed by Netflix 2 days after the Newsnight program aired and says, "I'm watching it on my tablet. I wanted to throw my tablet in the pool. As a victim, the one thing you ask for is some acknowledgement, some remorse. This guy, Prince Andrew, didn't have any remorse at all." And that statement right there is why I have zero remorse for any of these people. No quarter asked, no quarter given. Game on. Because these people play for keeps, folks. They're not out here. They're not playing around with the survivors. They're not, they weren't messing around while they were out here conducting their affairs. So they must be met with the same sort of aggression. They must be met with the same sort of fire. The best defense is offense. And in this case, that is certainly proven to be true. If you'd like to contact me, you could do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. You can also find the links for the Patreon for the program and for the GoFundMe if you would like to make a donation and help out. You enjoy the content, great. If not, that's cool too. We enjoy having you either way here on the podcast. All right, everybody, I will be back tomorrow for some more fun. I hope everybody had an amazing day.